Welcome back, everybody, to the show this evening. Trump is playing a fun little game with himself. He's playing with himself, where maybe so, where he's thinking, anytime he hears of an industry, he goes, can I tariff that? And he's just tariffing every which way, even things that aren't really tariffable. Well, we thought, like movies. Let's tariff movies. I'm so sick of Snow White. She's too woke. Tariff her. And I'm going to get to, that's not even the crazy part. The economic backlash that this could cause is as if Trump were trying to spark every hindrance to American economic output possible. But first, let's hear his argument.
The movie tariffs.
Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week.
Very strong research.
And we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying, if they're not willing to make a movie...
Yeah, I can tell you the reason that the movie industry is dealing with the struggles that it is has way more to do with streaming, a change in movie viewership culture, and other characteristics than our movie trade that actually benefits us so much. I am, before going on to why this is particularly absurd, excited to announce that I'm going to be tariffing people who scream while they work out at the gym. People who use the restroom and don't clean up after themselves. Men. This is men, okay? God gave you a little pointer and you seem not to be able to point it. I'm going to tariff the term Riz. And Trump's makeup routine is getting a very powerful tariff slapped on it by Beasley nations. CNN reports Trump orders 100% tariff on foreign movies. President Trump on Sunday extended his trade war to the cinema. Trump, in an evening post on a social media platform, Truth Social, said he has instructed the Commerce Department, a U.S. trade representative, to place a 100% tariff on films that are produced outside the United States. Now, again, from my understanding, services can be subjected to non-trade barriers, or not non-trade, non-tariff barriers, but you don't really tariff in the way that Trump seems to be articulating it. So CNN went on to say, it's not at all clear, not at all clear how such a tariff would be imposed. Films are intellectual property, not goods, so they represent a kind of service that's not currently subject to tariffs. However, the USTR notes that some services can be subject to certain non-tariff trade barriers, such as regulations and tax incentives. Those could disadvantage American filmmaking. And this brings us, I'll get back to Trump arguing on behalf of this. But this brings us to what I think is, as I went through the World Wide Web today, we haven't even gotten to how this could hurt the American economy. I want to explain that because it's even more irrational than his tariffs on goods. But when I scrolled through the World Wide Web today, two things were of a similar rationality: Trump's movie tariffs and Ashton Hall's latest morning routine video.
Thank you.
No socks. It's criminal.
Thank you.
So that's fun. It's fun. He's having fun.
What the hell was that?
All right. Now, before looking at more of Trump's justification, Justin Wolfers, an economist, responded to someone citing the fact that U.S. law currently stipulates that movies are exempt from tariffs regardless of format or medium of transmission. And Wolfer says, given that this White House leaks about everything and there was no chatter about movie tariffs, it seems likely that policy reshaping the lives of millions of Americans was made by an old man sitting alone in a room with a remote in his left hand, aided by no expert advice. Yeah. And then he says if Trump is serious about tariffs on movies, it's a very dangerous escalation. Tariffs have not traditionally been applied to services, and the United States is a massive net exporter of services. We would be extremely vulnerable to any service-based retaliation. And he shows the United States runs very large trade surpluses in movies and television programming. So sparking this, however this would be enforced, I need to figure that out for myself, much less Trump figuring it out. But it could cause one of the things he says he wants, which is for U.S. business to be net exporting, which we've talked about the broader economic incoherence of his proclamation on that. But even so, this is an area where we're doing it. We got it. We won. We're so globally dominant when it comes to stuff like movies. And still, he's trying to hurt us there. It doesn't make any sense, but he's trying to make it make sense. Here's more. By the way, if you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button and join our little member community by clicking the join button below.
Can you explain a little bit about how you would implement tariffs on the film industry, kind of how that would work?
Well, that's a different story, but our film industry has been decimated by other countries taking them out, and also by incompetence, like in Los Angeles. The governor is a grossly incompetent man. He's just allowed it to be taken away from Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't do very much of that business. They have the nice sign and everything's good, but they don't do very much. A lot of it's been taken to other countries, and a big proportion.
Now, you might be thinking, no way this just popped. When did Trump care about Hollywood? This couldn't have just popped into his head. No. John Voight is the one. I called him for years John Vought, and I just want to officially issue an apology. I apologize to John Voight for mispronouncing his name. Trump's plan to slap a 100% tariff on any and all foreign movies reportedly came from John Voight, who himself is, I don't know, an actor or something. But he is probably not the person you want to get advice from. That would be my advice to Trump is maybe don't take advice from John Voight. Here's one of his greatest political videos with a very powerful American flag behind him.
The war of our lifetime now. We the people are in trouble if this nation picks Kamala Harris. We must stop this crime that is happening. It's a war crime that Obama is directing, and Kamala Harris will be the cackling hyena that just listens and repeats. If we do.
It seems in this video he's going on to make the argument that it's a crime if you voted for Kamala.
Do not stop this horror. You, my friends, will have the biggest horror that you will not know how to end. We must all see this truth, become one with this understanding that God will guide us with words of wisdom, that we may understand that Donald Trump will make any sacrifice to save America. We the people are in danger, and we must vote for President Trump because he will save this nation. And the left are all afraid of his strength because he is only for the people. He's not for the power, for the greed, the lies, or wanting to destroy one's hard-earned earnings. We must stop this madness now. Our children are in danger. The left is trying to take away your children and turn them into non-binaries. Mm-hmm. You all.
I think I was actually an early adopter to that campaign platform. I remember thinking, Kamala's gonna lose if she doesn't clearly stipulate that she's trying to turn the kids non-binary. Like, I feel, no, I'm serious. She was like, freedom and let's benefit small businesses and child tax credit. And I was like, this is so weird. Why is she not advocating for more non-binary? It was weird. Like, I think that's why she lost, because she wasn't. John seems to think that she wasn't advocating enough. Let's juice up those non-binary numbers. Thank you, John. He got us.
Madness now. Our children are in danger. The left is trying to take away your children and turn them into non-binaries. You all on the left, the ones who are my peers that preach, you all know who you are. What have you all learned in this life? Have you learned the lessons that will bring you to the higher place of eternity? This is now all your lessons. For each one who votes against Trump, this will be among the worst crimes that you will see in your lives.
What is he even saying? A lot of those sentences were just very circular. Have you learned the lesson that you were sent here to learn as a lesson?
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Thank you, Michael. Have you learned the lesson of the lesson that God lessoned, which is Trump's lesson? If we do not vote Trump, that will be the greatest war crime, because it'll be a crime of war. And after 4 years of Kamala, directed by Obama, even though Obama got 8, everyone will be non-binary. And if everyone's non-binary, then the left will have their true goal, which is evil. John, you gotta applaud Trump for taking advice from that guy. that guy who I think is like the movie czar or something. Not that, but it's the ambassador to Hollywood or something. And he's giving Trump advice now on alienating people on the exact type of stuff that America thrives economically on the world stage, making so much money. When Trump misunderstands why we have trade deficits, but then surpluses in other areas, this is a part of that misunderstanding, which is a part of within the misunderstanding, under a misunderstanding foundation. And if you understand the misunderstanding, then you will understand standing, as maybe John would put it. Here is Scott Bessant, the Treasury Secretary. I was prepping for the show, minding my own business, and I played a clip of poor Scott, and producer Jaden just went, ugh. And I was like, what? What'd I do? And he was like, ugh, I hate listening to him talk. Hey, he's trying his best. He really brought his energy in this one. Watch.
If the namesake of this conference is any indication, this is a meeting for bold people with bold ideas. Well, I work for President Donald J. Trump, so
Yeah.
I feel right at home. Mike Milken, like President Trump, is a visionary. In the 19th
I am here to bring for you a thrilling, exciting, vibrant vision from John J. Trump about what America could be. Trump's a visionary. A visionary. Yeah. All right, Scott. Then you have a Republican trying to defend Trump on CNN. Watch this. This is Dave McCormack, the don't give food to the kids guy.
So how much time do you think we have?
No, I always do that. Rich McCormack. Apologies. This is Rich from McCormack.
So how much time do you think we have? You're talking about hardship.
Sure.
That's kind of vague. How much time does the U.S. have that can afford to endure that kind of economic pain?
Well, the nice thing is the stock market is all hypothetical, right? It's going to bounce up and down based on people projecting what might happen. The only thing that I'm worried about right now is the backlog of orders, because people are waiting to make orders. That's going to create an accordion effect in the economy, which could create some minor inflation, which is going to be adjusted over time. But we have about another 60 days. And I think, once again, if these come out to 0-0 tariffs.
Another 60 days of what, Rich?
Going to be adjusted over time. But we have about another 60 days. And I think, once again, if these come out to 0-0 tariffs, wow, what a boom that's going to be for us. What a benefit that's going to be for exports. And it's not going to affect our import tariffs because we're going to have 0-0 if that's the case. Now, the question is it going to have a 10% across the board? Is there going to be commodity tariffs of 25% on steel and aluminum? There are some things that could cause some inflationary policies, but that's yet to be seen.
You know, Pamela, thanks for asking the question. here's the deal. What's exciting is if all of the tariff policy that Trump previously said that he wanted were to go away, then that could be a really good thing. And if you think about, if he left the 10%, then he would have 10%, and that would be less good. But then he could, bring back the entire tariff plan that was supposed to be Liberation Day, Pam, and that would be to be seen. And so inflation could be temporary or it could be permanent, and there could be empty shelves, or there could be. What are you saying? You're not giving us anything. I love how he first of all, it was a lot of fluff. And then the second of all, he did the thing I've been telling you about, which is saying maybe things could get really good if Trump would stop doing all of this. Now, you might be thinking that's not what he said. He said if Trump uses this tariff policy as a negotiating tactic to drop global tariffs to zero, in general, in global trade, then that would create an enhanced free trade environment, which would be beneficial to U.S. companies. Do you think? I want you to think about this, MAGA. Okay, everyone, close your eyes. Imagine, if you would, that Trump is telling you that U.S. jobs are being shipped overseas and being replaced by labor elsewhere that's cheaper, or because of comparative advantage, certain industries, manufacturing, are more effective and efficient in other countries. And then we have certain things that are more effective and efficient here, and different people specialize in different stuff. And that has set up the current world trading order that we're in, and that's bad according to Trump. And so he's going to stop allowing other countries to have companies that produce products that we purchase from them, and we're going to purchase everything just from inside. If we dropped all tariffs to zero, even if the other countries did too, how does that change the characteristics that got us here in the first place? The reason we got here in the first place is because trade opened up a lot. And in many ways that was beneficial. And then in certain sectors that was hurtful. But trying to shut that down altogether was the plan of Trump's. Disastrous, but it was the plan. Let's have that economic isolationism. And if you drop tariffs to zero, it would still be cheaper to produce things in other countries. So whatever he ends up doing, just know that this whole McCormack pipe dream, maybe Trump does that, I don't know. But it's not what the purpose of all of this was, to be clear. But why should we expect Trump to be coherent, or his defenders to be coherent, if whenever he gets asked basic questions, he sounds like this?
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look.
How soon?
We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
I think the slower he says it, the more it makes sense. No, Trump, we weren't. You don't understand trade deficits. That was really strange. Really, really strange. All right, here's Fox News reporting on the latest Trump idea.
To you. So Fox News can report exclusively that DHS will announce today that they're going to start paying for the commercial flights of illegal aliens who self-deport from the U.S. And on top of that, they're going to pay them an additional $1,000 stipend once they're confirmed to have left the country. Now, DHS says doing this is going to be significantly cheaper for the American taxpayer. They tell us that right now it costs on average about $17,000 to arrest, detain, and deport someone. They say paying for self-deportations and the stipend will only cost about $4,500 per person. That's about 70% cheaper.
Yeah, so I saw some criticism of this, sort of the waste of money criticism. I don't think this is a waste of money. Given the draconian, terrifying things we've seen from the Trump administration, I'm actually willing to go, no, stuff like this is better. Please, this. Because here it's voluntary, and you're getting some money in your pocket, and it's cheaper for the taxpayer. All of that is fine with me. The only thing is, the whole argument from Trump was that there's so many people in the country that we don't want in the country, public safety threats, and those are the people we're going to prioritize. And time again, even his far-right supporter Alex Jones made this statement. They're prioritizing the wrong people. And so the type of person who would accept that sort of program is not the degrading variable that Trump said he was going to be prioritizing. And on the whole immigration conversation, just to remind you, you have a kind of few different key aspects. And right now we're seeing just how wrong on one of the points the Trump administration is going. And then less extreme, you've seen Democrats go wrong on the broader issue as well. You need, yes, a secure border, absolutely. And to the extent that that's happening under Trump, it should be acknowledged. But then you also do have to uphold American principles of humanity. And that's what Trump is violating over and over again. The other thing is you want to lock down the border completely to where you would only have lawful immigration, essentially, right? That's the ideal situation. But that should come with really having a solid path to lawful immigrant status. And so if someone is wanting to come to the United States, contribute, and pursue the American dream, there's actually a shot that they'll be able to do that, disincentivize illegal immigration. And then you have to have a plan for the millions of people who are currently here and are undocumented immigrants. And for some of those, they've committed crimes or whatever, they're going to have to be deported. And then a lot of them are hardworking. They did do something wrong and, illegally immigrated to the United States. But you could imagine, as Ruben Gallego writes here, why don't we make them pay a $5,000 fine, go through a background check, and give them a work visa for a few years, renewable with good behavior. And so that sort of last aspect of this is that the people contributing to their community, who are very immersed in their community, who have families in many cases, you have to come up with a rational and humane pathway that's not as preferential, not as ideal for them as lawful immigrants, but does provide eventually getting there if they do everything right. And that's what kind of the broader pictures. And so with Trump, you have, maybe we say, with all of the resources that have been sent down the border, it's very logistically sound. But we see the huge humanitarian violations. No plan for pathways to citizenship. That doesn't mean just whatever, throw it out. As Ruben Gallego said, I think that's an interesting few steps as one idea. And then in his deportations, he's literally breaking the law and being authoritarian. Moving forward, on the same topic though, Blue Georgia quotes, I can't play this clip because of copyright, but John Oliver was quoting El Salvador's Minister of Justice and Public Security. No one who enters the CCOT will ever walk out. They will only be able to leave in a coffin. This is the El Salvador in prison. And this is what I'm talking about. Can we really applaud Trump for the fact that border crossings are really low if basic human rights are being thrown out? And Trump is saying next it should be U.S. citizens. The Washington Post says the Post examined immigration and court records and conducted interviews with attorneys, friends, and family members to piece together information about more than 50 of the men believed to be imprisoned at the Terrorism Confinement Center. The review shows that despite the administration claims, many of the immigrants sent to El Salvador had entered the United States legally and were actively complying with U.S. immigration rules. I've read this already to you, but I want to remind you, at least 2 of the men in prison in El Salvador had been approved by the State Department to resettle as refugees in the United States after extensive vetting by federal law enforcement. At least 4 had protections against removal through TPS. Others had been active members of Venezuela's opposition and had open asylum claims. And so, to sort of the few points I laid out there, you can see on so many metrics as it pertains to the immigration issue, Trump is proving himself to be an utter failure. One other little miscellaneous thing I want to talk about. Doge is supposedly saving us money. I do want to credit the New York Times here, a good piece talking about the waste, what Elon Musk didn't budget for. Firing workers costs money too. The errors and obfuscations underlying Doge's claims of savings are well documented. Less known, though, are the costs Mr. Musk incurred by taking what Mr. Trump called a hatchet to the government and the resulting firings, agency lockouts, and building seizures that mostly wound up in court. The Partnership for Public Service, a nonprofit organization that studies the federal workforce, has used budget figures to produce a rough estimate that firings, rehirings, lost productivity, and paid leave of thousands of workers will cost upward of $135 billion. He's costing us $135 billion just this year because of the inefficiencies caused by so haphazardly ripping apart our federal government. Yes, that costs money too. Luke, what does that mean? You might be asking, at the Internal Revenue Service, a Doge-driven exodus of 22,000 employees would cost about $8.5 billion in revenue in 2026 alone. Because whenever you get rid of all the people who get the money, maybe they won't be able to get the money anymore. It's so backwards. And then you have, as Musk steps back from Doge, we're getting a number of assessments of his accomplishments. They're generally harsh. He vowed to cut $2 trillion in wasteful spending. The federal government spends just under $7 trillion a year, so a big chunk. He recently acknowledged it'll be more like $150 billion. But then if you dive into that $150 billion, so much of that is not even real. The New York Times' David French wrote, so right now I would say Doge has saved $2 billion. Which is 1/35 of 1% of the federal budget.
I am become meme.
Otherwise known as budget dust. So while not actually saving much, he's wasting and throwing people's lives upside down. It's not only or even mainly on fiscal grounds that he deserves our contempt. The cuts are leaving thousands of good people unemployed, and they will literally kill people. Coal miners will die prematurely. Children all over the world will die from malaria and other diseases because of the demise of USAID. In fact, it's already happening. Children with AIDS in Africa have died because of the elimination of a president's emergency plan for AIDS relief, or PEPFAR outreach program. As that was being attacked, I told you that was going to be the ripple effect of it. That's just the beginning of the enormous pain these cuts will inflict across the world. And the richest man on the planet, who grew up amid vast wealth from his father's emerald mining operations and has never known hardship. Okay, wait. I was told, I have it on good authority, as my belt pack is getting wonky, I have it on good authority that Elon Musk was, quote, unquote, very nice to his servants. His daddy told us that. I'm not kidding. His dad told us that when Elon was growing up, he befriended the servants. It's nice, isn't it? It's that, to me, he saw his humility. The Elon Musk was shaped by what was the dad's argument? I think he's down to earth. All his dad's arguments. Okay. Who grew up with vast wealth amid his father's emerald mining operations, never known hardship or had to rely on government service in his life, unless you count $38 billion in government contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits for his companies, is responsible for every drop of it. Yeah. Hate to end on that note, but I will. Share your thoughts in the comments.